All right, guys, Brandon, it's part two. Okay, so let's jump into this. I'll go a lot quicker this time. So let's talk about tire pressure and what effects it has on your tire and what effects it has on your vehicle. Uh, if this is the bottom of your tire, I'm trying to make a perfectly straight line, that's close to proper inflation. If you overinflate it, it bows out the middle, okay? And then if you underinflate it, it cups the tire up. So consider this to be like the center of the tread. This is one shoulder. This is another shoulder, okay, of your tire. This is the pavement here. Is the tire bowed out where the middle is touching the pavement? Is the tire flat where the whole tire is touching the pavement? Or is the tire cupped where only the outsides are touching the pavement? So basically what happens is when you get caught in the rainstorm, if it's bowed out, as it comes down, it displaces the water side to side. It pushes the water out the two sides. That's fantastic, okay? If it's flat, you hydroplane easier, and worse is when it's cupped. Because what happens is as it comes down, it's the edges that hit the water first, and they push it towards the middle of the tire, and it ends up trapping the water, and it lifts your car up on top of the water. You're instantly hydroplaning. So tire pressure in any car is important, but Corvettes, it's super important because of two reasons. One, the tires are super fucking wide, right? So those wide tires have to displace a lot of water, or they're able to trap a lot of water, okay? Way more than any other vehicle because the tires are so damn wide. The second reason is Corvettes don't weigh a lot, so it's hard for the vehicle to split the water. So Corvettes are very easy to hydroplane if you don't have proper tire pressure. So proper tire pressure, and for those of you about to argue with me, you need to shut up and open up your minds, because I am well aware that all of you are highly confused, and we're going to explain why General Motors faultily taught you guys horribly on this subject, and we're going to explain how simple it is. We're going to explain why this should be a class action lawsuit. This should be a lawsuit against General Motors because it's so simple. And I wanted, instead of suing General Motors or do anything like that, I wanted Chuck and Conti to just do a Tech Tuesday about this. And instead, Conti starts snubbing me and pretending that he knows more about me than tire pressure, because they do a Tech Tuesday and do the complete opposite. So let's get back to on point here. What's going on? So Michelin, they're the company who makes the tires, guys. They and people like Jim Marrow and Aaron Link and all these people over the years, they all get together and they figure out, okay, we're going to give you 100 different sets of tires, and you and the guys go out and systematically log your lateral G's and see which one you think pulls the most, has the most grip, blah, 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 at what tire pressure, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, Michelin knows what tire pressure is optimal for a Corvette as far as the shape is concerned. Now, 34 PSI is 34 PSI as far as shape is concerned. It doesn't matter if it's 0 degrees outside or 110 degrees outside, 34 PSI is going to have your tire in a very specific shape, because that 34 PSI is relative to atmospheric pressure. Now, for those of you who think that you're smart and you think that you're physics buffs, you're like, no, Brandon, 34 PSI in 0 degree weather will not be 34 PSI at 110 degrees. Right. The PSI changes. But listen to what I said. 34 PSI is the same shape of tire in 0 degree weather as it is 110 degree weather. The tire shape is the same, assuming the PSI is the same, regardless what weather you're in. Did you follow that? I hope so, because it's really easy to lose you guys, and it really drives me fucking crazy how just unmechanically inclined all of you are, and it feels like I'm talking to literally mentally disabled people. Like, genuinely, you guys, anyway. So, the pressure, as those of you wanted to argue, does change when the temperature changes. So you have to make adjustments. When it gets cold outside, you have to add extra air to your tire. When it gets hot out again, you have to let air back out, okay? If you watch my videos long enough, you'll probably see where I get out of the car, or the anonymous driver gets out of the car and just lets air out of his tires when he's on the side of the road, on a windy road. It's like, what the fuck's this guy doing? He's getting his PSI back down to 34 or 35 PSI is where you want to be. Instead of General Motors explain that 34 to 35 PSI is the target for the moment when you're driving, that is ideal. You always want to be at 34, 35 PSI. That's optimal grip. And in the rain, you want to bow it out a little bit if you want to get advanced, and you want to go up to 37 or 38, okay? But as far as General Motors be willing to explain how simple this is, that that's the target. They don't explain that that's the target. Instead, what General Motors does is they play a really stupid game where they pretend that they're really super good guessers. And they pretend that when it's cold out or hot out, they magically know where your tire pressure should be when a Chevrolet vet tech checks your tire pressure in the warm garage or cool garage in the summertime. They think that the vet tech has this magic crystal ball that if he puts your tire pressure to like 31 psi, that your tire pressure is going to magically get to 34 or 35 every time you leave the Chevrolet store. That's not the case. So in this instance where I ended up spinning the car, it was cold out. It was like winter time. It was cold rain. I think it was like November. And the car had been in the shop. They'd changed the oil. I didn't bring it in for them to touch my tire pressure. Come in to change the oil and do whatever needs to be done to the car. So it was in the shop for a while. And then Chuck or whoever changes the tire pressure from what was probably 38 psi in that shop, in that warm shop, brought it down to 31. So they let 7 psi out of the tires, if not 10. Okay. And you say, well, what do you mean? Because, guys, I had the car set so that when I'm out in the cold, I'm at 35 to 36. You pull into the warm shop, it brings the tire pressure up to, let's just say, 40. I don't know what it was, but I'm just going to go on a limb and say it was probably 40 psi. They let it down to 31. Guess what happens when I go back out into the cold? It's now 25 psi when it starts to rain. And by the way, the rain will lower your tire pressure even further because it's just water cools things down faster than just air does, okay? So I was probably at 27 or 28 psi, and then it starts raining, and now I'm at 25 psi. So car gets all squirrely because why? The tires are cupped. It's trapping all that water on I-77. Car spins off the road. It didn't spin off the road. It was getting really crazy, and I chose to go crazy slowly into the grass so that the people beside me and behind me and stuff didn't wreck, because you got all these idiots who are right on your fucking ass who think they can outstop a Corvette. It's like, get off my ass, guy. And I got a semi next to me. I'm going to end up like underneath the semi truck getting ran over by the rear wheels of the trailer if I spin underneath the trailer. So it's like, I'm just going to go in the grass. I'm going to cut my losses and say this is a bad situation, but I know that I can go from 65 miles per hour down to 0 miles per hour if I just go over there on the grass. I grew up driving four-wheelers and Jeeps in the grass. I know what's going on. So that's what I do. Car is now stuck in the grass. I finally get out of the grass. And, you know, I'm making fun of myself, but I'm also explaining to people very cordially, this is a tire pressure issue. This happened because I just left Coughlin and they let the air out of my tires. I was not being nasty. So I put up a big post about it on YouTube or on Facebook explaining it. I probably made YouTube videos about it. I mentioned Coughlin, but I mentioned that it's not their fault. I think in the beginning I didn't even mention Coughlin. But because I didn't mention Coughlin in the beginning, guess what? Rick Conti doesn't care. So then I start like tagging Conti in these posts on Facebook, and we were Facebook friends. Okay. This, by the way, I'm going to fast forward, is what ended our Facebook friendship. This topic right here. Tire pressure. Me trying to save people's lives, and instead of Rick Conti call me up on the phone and say, hey man, we've had a lot of good times together. Are you mad at me? Is our friendship coming to an end? No, Rick Conti makes an assumption that our friendship is over because I'm talking about tire pressure and Coughlin Automotive, and he unfriends me. And not only does he unfriend me, he blocks me. Blocked. And it didn't happen on the first post per se, but the issue is, as I'm creating these posts and tagging Rick in them, next thing you know, him and Chuck are doing Tech Tuesdays, saying the complete opposite and like rolling their eyes that anybody who disagrees with them is stupid. Go fuck yourselves. You're gonna get people killed. And that's what I kept trying to explain in these posts, is between General Motors and their ignorant vet techs following these stupid orders from General Motors, it's gonna get somebody killed, okay? Or hurt, or just their car wrecked. So you would think if a person's logical that they would reach out to me. Hey, Brandon, I don't understand what you're talking about right here. Are you mad at me? Are you happy with me? Rick, I'm not mad at you. I want you and Chuck to get this. So then that happens. So then I'm pretty sure, and I got to go back through all my text messages with Rick. I'm pretty sure I reached out to Rick and told him about this. I'm pretty sure I explained it to him. I'm pretty sure I explained it to him in person. I come to realize that there is this weird vibe at Coughlin Automotive where they're not talking to me anymore. And Chuck's got this attitude that I'm just this stupid kid with a Corvette when I have more miles logged in a fucking Corvette than anybody Chuck knows. I'm not asking them to just say, oh, hail Brandon, Brandon's correct. I'm asking them to engage in friendly conversation and treat me with enough respect to say, interesting. I'm going to ask the GM rep about this. I'm going to do some more homework about this. Instead, they all have fucking attitudes that they're smarter. That they're so fucking much smarter at every given topic that it's not even worth discussing with me. So now I'm blocked on Facebook from Rick Conti. I haven't gotten sold car number 9. These are their actions. I don't care what their freaking intentions were. These are their actions. They're very extreme actions. It's not like Rick just did nothing, where he can just say, oh, I was busy. I'm so sorry. Rick did big things. Okay? He's making big changes to our friendship. So you can't just say, oh, he's just ignoring you, Brandon. No, he's making big negative changes to our friendship and to our business moving forward. Okay? So, sorry, I got a phone call coming through. At the end of the day, what this all boils down to is whether it's Rick Conti saying that he doesn't want to cause the engineers any trouble in the test cars as he walks up on them with a camera phone in his pocket and has them in a cornered lot where they're not able to do their job anymore because their protocol is that if you start tailing them and stuff, they're supposed to pull off. Especially in the city, in urban areas. His words don't match up with his actions when I clearly explain to him what proper actions would be if you want to not cause them trouble. You see what I'm saying? Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. So there's only so many options. Either Rick Conti thinks that I'm a total fucking moron and that I have no clue what I'm talking about. That's option number 1, which means he's pretty illogical because the stuff that I'm explaining is simple common sense. It's happened in the past. Everybody knows that this is what they're going to do. They're going to pull off if you start tailing them. Option 2 is he wants to do it, but wants you to not hate him for doing it. And there's where the deliberate lies come in. Option 3 is someone forced him to do it, physically forced him to do it. I'm going to tell you guys right now, there was nobody physically forcing Conti to chase down these test mules, okay, these test camo cars, and corner them in a parking lot. No one was forcing him. No one at Coughlin said, you got to do this or else you're fired. No one at General Motors said, you need to do this. This is what we want you to do. I did not tell him to do this. This was him doing it on one of 2 reasons. He either thinks that I'm an idiot and have no clue what I'm talking about, or he knows what he's doing. Now, I'm going to let you guys determine whether he really thinks that I'm an idiot and that I don't know what I'm talking about. When I've been doing this over and over and over, and I say, if you do it this way, you can actually follow them around and it's fun. But if you do it the other way, they're going to pull off and nothing's going to happen. And then if you walk up to them, you're only going to piss them all off and they're going to drive away and they're never going to come back here again. So the 2 choices are Brandon has no clue what he's talking about, or Rick knows what he's doing. Now, why would Rick want to do that? Why would Rick not want to follow him around in the country, but instead wants to corner them in a parking lot? This is where I said it's because it's ego-based. Rick wants everybody to see Mario walking up to the cars like a hero. He thinks it's a heroic act that he's cornered the cars. Look at me with the cars. See me with the cars? That's what he put very first in the video. That's what he's most proud of. That's what he thinks that you guys care about. Him with the cars. Da, 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 da. Triumph. I am with the cars. That's how his mind thinks. And see, Rick doesn't understand that those of us who are a little bit smarter than he is, it's like watching a juvenile 4-year-old. It's very simple. You know what the 4-year-old's thinking. The 4-year-old sees the cupcake. He's looking at you. You told him not to eat the cupcake. You know that the 4-year-old wants to eat the cupcake. Are you going to eat the cupcake? No, I'm not going to eat the cupcake. I don't want to cause the GM engineers any harm. I don't want to cause them to lose their jobs. I want them to know that I respect them. I want you to know that I'm going to eat all my asparagus, Mommy. Rick knows that he's not supposed to be doing this. He knows it's a problem. He's sitting there telling everybody, I know it's a problem. I'm on you guys' team. I agree with you 100%. I don't want to cause these engineers any trouble. They know exactly what I'm doing. They know that I'm not a threat. That's a lie. That is a car salesman lie of saying, I'm not in the wrong. They know I'm not in the wrong. We're justified. We're doing... It's bullshit. So instead of these car salesmen keep their lies at their store, which we've already documented, Coughlin Automotive, and Rick Conti admits they can verbally tell you one thing, and unless you get it on paper, they will not do it in certain situations. They feel that they have the full right to lie to you, okay? Because they're car salesmen, and that's what other car salesmen around the country also do. That's the status quo, and that's what we all do, according to Rick, right? So the point is, when I made the video saying that he's all about his ego, Rick is foolish enough to say, Brandon, he didn't say my name, but he's saying, people can't read my mind. People have no right to say what's in my mind. Okay, Rick, there's two choices. You either think that I'm dumb and that I have no clue what I'm talking about what's going to cause the cars to pull off, where you're going to be able to corner them in a parking lot and you're not going to get any exciting footage of the cars going down country roads. You think that I'm wrong, or you realize that I'm right after it begins to happen, and you still decide to go ahead and get out of your car and walk up on them with a camera in your pocket because you don't care about their job. And I don't want to hear your words about how you say you care about their jobs. You can get these guys fired. They could call their boss, and their boss could be in a wrong mood. You let Rick Conti corner you in a parking lot? Are you guys nuts? Get back to Detroit. I can't believe you guys. Rick Conti's got these cars on, blah, blah, blah. Rick Conti ended up getting a picture of this. He got a picture of the new interior, blah, blah, blah. Granted, it didn't happen. He didn't take any photos of the inside of the car. But if it had, these guys could have gotten fired. If the car would have had some sort of new marking on it that you could see through the camouflage when Rick Conti cornered them in the parking lot, these guys could have gotten fired for not evading Rick and getting into a parking lot where he can't corner them. He has no respect for other people. Yes, I do, Brandon. I said all throughout the video that I have respect for other people. Your actions don't match up. You revert to video number 1 if you don't understand what I'm talking about right now. He's stepping inside the square that he's telling you he's not going to step in. He's treating people with disrespect. He's putting them in a spot where they can lose their job. It's bad enough to chase guys around the countryside. It's another thing to corner them and get out of your car and go try to have a conversation with them. You're putting them in a horrible spot. I was willing to go this far. Rick wanted to go farther. Justin was willing to go this far with the interior photo leaks where he made sure he cropped out the background so you didn't know it was inside of a GM facility. Rick Conti went further. Okay? Hopefully I'm making sense. That's going to be the end of this second part video. I'll probably make a third part video, but I want to get my thoughts collected because I don't want these to just be rambling videos. That's part 2. There's probably part 3 coming. Hopefully that's making sense, Mr. Coughlin. Hopefully that's making sense, Mark Royce. You're dealing with a person who's a representative of Cogan Automotive who's making deliberate choices, even though he says he's not. He's making deliberate choices for one of the 3 reasons spelled out in part 1 and also in this video. There's only so many choices of why he's making these choices, guys. And what it really boils down to, it's not hard to understand. It's about his YouTube channel. It's all about his YouTube channel. That is his top priority. He wants to be seen. Da, 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 I'm in front of the cars. Look at me. First thing I show on the video. See ya. End of part 2.